Rebecca, a 34-year-old sole parent of her 6-year-old daughter, is now 7 months pregnant and being followed at a community clinic because of high blood pressure and recurring symptoms of a bipolar mood disorder. Rebecca was referred to Michael, a child protection services worker, by the clinic staff who noticed Rebecca's increasing abuse of her prescription medicine and emotionally abusive behavior towards her daughter whenever she accompanied Rebecca to the clinic. I play myself as Rebecca's counselor. Rebecca's daughter was placed in foster care for 3 months shortly after her birth. At the time, Rebecca was diagnosed as suffering from severe postpartum depression, was briefly hospitalized, and began to be followed by a psychiatrist at the clinic where this interview is filmed. Rebecca's daughter was eventually returned to her, but the family's file remained open. Rebecca was re-hospitalized 2 years later. This time, her daughter was placed with the paternal grandmother temporarily. The girl's father is no longer involved. He left them immediately after her birth. Rebecca supports the family with a home-based business as a graphic designer. The father of Rebecca's second child, Alex, has told Rebecca he wants to parent both children. There are 3 parts to this interview. The first is a brief meeting with Rebecca and her daughter in an interview room in the busy clinic. The second session is an interview between Rebecca and I. A third meeting takes place a little while later and includes Rebecca and her new partner, Alex. So what is it you do? Here's the church. Here's the steeple.
Open up the doors and here's all the people.
And who taught you that?
Frana.
Frana taught you that. Oh, that's neat. When you go to Frana's house, what happens there?
We eat dinner every second Sunday.
I see you sort of checking with your mom. Maybe you want your mom to help tell the story?
And sometimes we play a game and I help Frana cook on the barbecue.
How often does Heather get to see Frana?
Oh, at least every second Sunday.
So every second Sunday?
Yeah, that's a regular thing for them.
Do you go to church on Sundays with Frana, or does she do that?
Oh yeah, she takes her to church.
Okay. What do you like? What does Frana cook that's your favorite food? Is there something special that you like?
Cheese fondue.
Cheese fondue. Oh, that sounds... It's really nice to meet you, Heather. It's great that you came in for today. If it's okay, what I'd like to have you do is we have a playroom just down the hall. I'm going to ask that you go there for just a little while your mom and I have a conversation, if that's okay. Lots of great toys in there. And if you need your mom, just ask. There's a woman who's at the playroom. You can just ask her, and what she'll do is she'll walk you right back down the hall, and she'll just knock on the door here, and you can come back in and ask your mom a question if you need anything, okay? And we'll just be right here, or we'll come and find you. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Rebecca, would that be okay if she spent some time in the playroom just down?
That's
it's just
fine.
down here.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, come. Just look this way. What we're, of course, trying to do still is to make sure that the children don't have to be taken away, and I know that's a very difficult thing to remember, but there was a period where Heather was apprehended. This is a long time ago, and of course that's what we're working towards, as I understand it, to try and avoid that situation ever having to be repeated. And are we still on, is that still your understanding of what we're going to do?
Yeah, that's what I assumed was going to happen.
Perfect. What do you need to continue to do to keep these changes moving ahead in your life? Do you have a sense of that? So you can continue to parent Heather in the way that you want to parent her. What more sort of needs to continue here?
What do you mean, what needs to continue here? Like, none of my life moves on a continuous path. Obviously, you don't have kids. I mean, otherwise you'd know. There's nothing linear about it.
My life is obviously very different than yours in my own family life, and I'm just curious. Then, as a woman in this community, as you've been a single parent for a number of years in this community. What's that experience been like for you? Have you?
What's it been like for me? I guess it depends on the circumstance. You know, if I'm in the grocery store, I'm like a lot of other people I see. If I'm, if I go back to where I'm from, I'm certainly not like everybody else in the community.
Where are you from?
I'm from Connecticut.
Was there something you learned from being raised there with your family in Connecticut that you've sort of wanted to resist or push back from, make your own parenting different?
Yeah.
Can you explain what's going to be different with Heather and with this baby?
Everything.
Was there something in particular about the way that you were raised that you want to move away from?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
All of it.
All of it? Was there a particular rule book or something that they had about...
How not to parent, probably.
How not to parent. Okay.
I just don't want it to be the same for my kids, that's all.
Can you tell me a little bit what was so different from the way that you're parenting, what you're striving to be as a parent?
I just want my kids to be able to be kids, and that's it, right?
Am I hearing you say you weren't a kid, that you weren't given that permission?
A lot of the time.
I've noticed, Rebecca, that you've relied more on Heather's grandmother, your ex-partner's mother, than your own family.
Yeah.
And is that because that part of your family, your own family, that you're not looking to them?
That's right. I'm not looking to them.
On how to raise a kid?
No, not looking to them for anything.
When I think about where we started and the stories that I had heard about what happened all those years ago, and the things that we were talking about now, and what I sort of see you becoming, there's such a contrast, such a difference in the stories that are being told about you. It feels like there's been quite a change. Do you see the difference between those two stories?
Yeah.
It's a very different story of the kind of mother that you seem to want to be.
Well, I mean, I think I always wanted to be a better mother.
Yeah, I see that. I'm curious, but do you have a sense of what kind of mother or role model that you have in your mind? You've mentioned, I get the sense from your own parenting experience, that's not really what you want. You want to sort of talk back to that experience. But who do you have a sense of what kind of mother you want to become? Do you have like a really wonderful mother in your head?
Well, my best friend's mom.
Your best friend's mom, okay. Really?
She was awesome, yeah.
Yeah. So you had that there was somebody very special.
Yeah. Yeah, but she wasn't my mom. I wanted her to be my mom.
And what was different at her house, or what did you see happening there?
I don't know. Everybody just was relaxed. And
since the last time that we've met, I'm curious if you've seen any particular changes in your life or your relationship or how you're parenting Heather, or your anything in terms of your medications and your moods. Has any of that been changing since the last time we met?
less stressed. This is, more in control.
Yeah.
So I can think it through a little more.
Okay. Have you noticed anything in any way that some of that stress gets into your relationship with your daughter?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes, if I get a bill in the mail, or, if somebody said they put a check in the mail and it should be there by Monday and it doesn't show up,
right.
I can feel my fuse getting a little shorter.
Yeah. Now, is that any different than it was before, when the medications weren't you weren't on the new medication and you weren't having some success with the medical team? Can you see a difference?
No, I'm just way more aware of it than I was before.
I'm curious about how coming here and meeting with someone like myself and being within the clinic and being on the medications, how does that affect how you feel like there's a Does it produce like a feeling of being labeled, or do you?
Oh, absolutely.
It does. I was wondering about that.
Of course it does, yeah. I mean, I was labeled here with a diagnosis, right?
Right.
So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a label, and no, I don't like it. I'm like a lot of other people, I guess.
I know sometimes when people get on a course of medication, they begin to come to a clinic like this, it's like this label sort of velcros to them. And a lot of people don't like that. And so I
don't like it at all,
Yeah.
because, you know, I mean, that's not who I am as a person. That's what somebody has decided to call
yeah.
me.
How you think people see you are just around your community, your Franny, I believe is your the paternal grandmother to Heather. Do you have a sense of how people are looking at you? And I'm curious, really, because I'm curious about how you cope with that.
Well, I mean, right now, here I am pregnant, and Alex is the dad, and Franny's not too happy.
She's not, eh?
Oh, no, she thinks it's just terrible.
So what do you say to them? What do you say to all those people who are sort of seeing you that way
I
and
try
stuff?
and just shut it out, you know. It's none of their business, really.
Just saying, none of your business. Shut it down, shut it out.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that your way of coping, in a sense, is by, in this case, in a very positive way, shutting it down.
Well, I'm shutting them down.
Shutting them down.
Right. Where before, I guess I was shutting myself down.
Oh, I see. So what's different now? You're shutting them down.
Them down. I'm not shutting myself down.
What are you trying to say to them back?
In my head?
Yeah. What are you
Like
saying?
none of your business.
Like none of your, yeah. Well, that's probably a wise thing to say back to them.
Well, it is none of their business, really.
Yeah. And even in terms of our relationship, in terms of this counseling, I mean, the moment everything's sort of stable and it gets balanced, I mean, in some ways, it's your own life as well, isn't it?
No offense, but I don't really want to be here in the first place.
Well, and I completely understand. It takes up time. I understand that some of the conversations we have are awkward.
Oh, it's not about the conversation. It's just, you know, I just want to be well, and I just want to be
Fair enough. Well, that makes
done.
sense.
You know, I
Yeah.
need to be well.
I'm curious about when you have an experience of those mood shifts and mood changing for you. Do you have a way of describing that? Do you have some words to describe it?
No, I really couldn't think of what I'd say about it. I know what it feels like, but I can't.
Okay, so you have a sense of it. If it, I could call it then as maybe the feeling or that feeling, and you would sort of know what I'm talking about.
For sure.
Lately, have you noticed any changes in how often or what the intensity of that feeling is in your life?
You mean since I've had my medication sorted out?
Yeah, let's talk about more recently.
Yeah, no, it's better. It really is better.
If we were to use a sort of a scale from 1 to 10, how much better? Say from before the medications, when you were misusing the medications and doubling up, and now, do you have a sense of that feeling, how much more you have it sort of in control, the less it's sort of invading your life? Is it, if 1 is, I don't see it at all, and 10 is it's constantly in my life, where are you at now with it?
Probably a 5, maybe a 6.
5 or 6. So it's still, you still notice it.
Oh, yeah.
And what's that like? How do you know it's a 5 or a 6?
No, I'm just way more aware of it than I was before.
Before, how would you describe it?
Often I wouldn't always even notice it.
Oh, I see. So as you become more aware of it, it increases. You know it's more in your life.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So
you know, if we talk about it all the time, and, you know, we talk quite a bit about it, and that's why I'm here, so.
Where do you want to get to? Where, if this was, over time, where are we trying to get to with this?
Oh, I'd like to get down to, like, probably a 2, or, you know, I can't spend so much of my life thinking about this, really.
So you'd like to bring it down. You'd like to not be
would.
noticing it as much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I need to be aware that it's there. It can't be.
So it's not like going back to when it was very low and in your life, but you weren't actually paying attention to it.
Yeah.
You want to down low, not really part of your life, but you also don't want to have to, that it's not actually burdening you.
Yes, yeah. That's
Okay.
right.
Can I ask you, I know it's quite difficult to talk about, but back when you were, when Heather was apprehended, back then, where was that feeling? Was it, what was your experience of it back then?
It just was.
There was the feeling, and she was there when she was very young, and
And I wasn't there at all.
and you weren't there at all.
So.
Yeah. 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 And I understand what you're saying is that the feeling was there, but that you had no control over it, or it was just a part of your life.
Yeah, no, the first one.
Yeah. Were you able to notice it, or was it just something strange for you back then? This would have just been after her birth.
I just couldn't. How could you not notice it? But I couldn't.
Oh. This would have been your first experience of it. And now it sounds like you're really seeing it in your life. This baby and Heather are both being protected, and that, the more you're able to see that, of course, the more you'll be able to keep them safe. Is there any worry about that would happen again? I mean, with the new baby?
That's why I'm here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just my worry.
Yeah. And certainly what started us into the counseling, but you're making changes in how you're parenting Heather. It's looking like those changes are going to make it so that she's not in danger. There's no safety issues,
Right?
And that even after the birth of this child, that this pattern won't necessarily have to repeat here.
I hope so.
I understand you're going to move in together.
Yes.
And do you have a sense, Alex, for your role in the family? Do you have a sense of what it's going to look like for you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty clear on that. I'm going to be. We're going to have a child together, and I'm going to be the child's father, and I want to have that same relationship with Heather as well. So I want to be there as a father is supposed to be there.
Are you more like your dad or your mom?
I kind of like to think that I'm more like my father, calmer, and I mean, I guess I'm probably like both of them actually. There are times when I admit that I can be a little bit hot-headed, but overall I think I bring a kind of calming nature into the family. Before
You struggled with a fair bit of alcohol in your life. I think Rebecca had mentioned that. I'm just kind of curious if that's an issue now in your life, or if that's something that is likely to be part of the relationship, or a barrier to offering support. I'm just kind of wondering what the influence of the alcohol is going to be on the relationship.
I don't know if struggle is the right word. I mean, I used to drink quite a bit, but I don't think it was a problem, and I'm not drinking as much now, cutting back, because, she's trying to look after her health and her baby's health, so I'm trying to respect that. I don't feel like it's something I struggle with.
Sorry, that was my word, absolutely. I guess I brought it up mostly because sometimes, people can, if that's something that's in a relationship, it can, it's just another barrier to parenting effectively. Is there any anxiety about how the alcohol will influence the relationship or the family life?
I used to drink quite a bit, but I don't think it was a problem, and I'm not drinking as much now, cutting back.
Well, I mean, there are times.
Well, I like
when you've got
drinks,
those deadlines, yeah.
You're a little bit worried, or the alcohol sometimes comes into the relationship, is what you're saying.
I'm not saying it's a problem, and I mean, I really recognize that Alex has been making an effort,
If that's something you don't want around you, what do you do with that? How do you cope now in this relationship?
Well, if I know he's out having a couple of drinks, it's probably good for me, because I go to bed and just try and be asleep when he comes home.
But that's not very often. It's not like it's every night.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you say it either, that you're doing it every night, that's for sure.
If it does seem to be that it's getting a problem to be a problem and interfering in our, how our family can work together, can be a family properly, then it's definitely something that we've got to talk about.
Sure. I'm curious then, what kind of special things can Alex bring to the relationship, to Heather's life, to the new baby's life, and of course to helping Rebecca?
I want to be a dad. I'm excited about this.
I hear that. Yeah. And you're happy to have him in the relationship. That's very much why we wanted to bring, ask you to join us here today. Occasionally, your mood changes quite rapidly, and that's what we've been trying to work on.
Yeah. When
that happens, how does Alex influence that pattern?
Well, when it happens and he's home, he's usually pretty helpful. He'll take Heather out to give me just a bit of time to get myself together, as much as I can.
So that's something that's great. So very concretely, he's able to take Heather away, and you have some time. What do you anticipate happening in the near future as Rebecca's involvement will start decreasing here at the center?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. What do you think will happen? Are you both okay with that? Are you certainly okay with that?
I'm totally okay with that.
You're okay with that for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of like to see maybe an ongoing relationship here, even if it's not as frequent sessions as you have now. But I think it'd be a good idea even once a month or once every few months, coming in and maintaining that connection and maintaining that support. Because I guess I was worried that she's come so far, and then it's like you get better.
So you see a change in Rebecca.
Yeah.
You're seeing so all the work that you've been doing and all the changes you've been making. You're actually seeing her. Do you have a sense of how you've known her for now about a year and a half?
Yeah.
Would you have a description of her now? How would you describe her now versus before?
Well, I think she's definitely more self-aware. When she has these really down moods, they're a little less frequent, and definitely they don't last as long. She comes back out of them a lot more quickly, and she's starting to really recognize when these are actually happening.
What's it like to hear him say that you're more self-aware?
It's really interesting to hear somebody else say that, because I have worked hard, and I am trying to recognize, and just take that deep breath,
I'm curious also, because if I can ask Alex while we got him here, but you're also seeing her as a parent to Heather. Mm-hmm. You would have seen that also over the last year and a half. Do you notice any changes in that aspect of Rebecca's life?
Yeah, she's calmer with her. She used to be a little bit, I don't know.
Is it okay for him to say this in front of me? I want to make sure you're okay with this.
Well, I think we've talked about
It'll be interesting to hear what he has to say.
You're okay, but you're okay with this?
Yeah,
okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but it is helpful to also say that, I think there's a bit of a celebration here, in that obviously these changes are being noticed by people in your life. So you're saying with Heather, you've seen the change as well?
Yeah.
Do you see very concretely something that she does, like something that you can actually say, I've noticed we were in the kitchen the other day, or we were in the living room or something, we were in the house, and I noticed you do something. Sometimes it's very helpful to make it real concrete.
Well, yeah, like the other day when Heather was crawling up onto the counter to get some crayons or something out of the cupboard, and we were about to sit down for dinner, and Rebecca said, we can do that after supper. Please don't do that. We're eating now. She was firm, but, kind with her, and a couple of months ago, she would just run over and snatched her down off the stool.
So is this a surprise to notice that such changes are being seen? Or have you noticed them as well?
Well, I guess it's nice to know that, what I'm trying to do is actually happening.